So the Haliburton loophole, very questionable practice, I guess, or questionable legislation that was passed back in 2005, which basically allowed natural gas oil companies basically to keep their keep what they utilized underground proprietary. So there's a lot of proprietary chemicals and processes that go into the hydraulic fracturing of a well, because there's a number of things they're trying to do there on the viscosity side, on scale buildup, on other sort of issues downhole that they're trying to manage. So then typically it will introduce different chemicals when the hydraulically fracture, and these are well less than 1% of the total, but there are a lot of could be known carcinogens and other things that they use to hydraulically fracture these wells. So it's become a huge issue and something that people are looking into with regards to disclosure of this. So since that time, I guess the loophole basically made it legal for a company not to have to publicly disclose their chemicals that they used in the process, which is, that's a questionable thing. Should they have to disclose that? So a lot of companies, I believe many of them, as well as a lot of states, have rules in place now that people have to actually disclose those chemicals. Yeah. So if you go to the website fracfocus.org, right? So you go to fracfocus.org, the majority of the wells that are hydraulically fractured now will show up under fracfocus.org, and they will have basically their concoction of what chemicals they utilized, as well as material safety data sheets to go with those chemicals. But you're right, it was I guess when that was passed back in 2005 under the Bush administration, has taken a lot of I guess sort of heat, maybe rightfully so. So I'm not saying I agree with it. I think things should be disclosed. I don't think it's the issue there.
If you were to pick one area about the entire process that you think needs stricter legislation, or it is lacking, would you say that it's with the possibility of surface leaks and stuff like that? Or
yeah, I think that's the huge one, and how you're what's the process for mixing these chemicals with water, as well as the process for treating the water when it does get returned. So what actually happens? So trying to find it's not a life cycle assessment, but you're actually tracking the life cycle of these chemicals a little bit better, right? So we can actually look at them in produced waters, where that produced water goes. Does it get re-injected, or do these chemicals, when they come out of the produced water, do they end up to vaporize and actually go into the atmosphere? And does that have an issue or not? Or is it that, is it safe sound? Because a lot of stuff ends up in sediment ponds and those sort of things between what's being produced or what actually stays down hole in the formations. So I think it's more sort of a better understanding of that process, as well as accountability for anything that you do put underground to make sure it doesn't end up leaking anywhere. So I think that's where I would think. I think also the second thing is really ensuring the integrity of the cement and the wellbores. So the idea that you're running a cement bond log that which is required for these operators to do, but that that there's a procedure in place to basically evaluate that a little bit better. Or maybe there's a possibility when they do what they call an underground injection control well. So these are the EPA Class 2 UIC wells for water disposal. They typically have to pressure them up and basically prove the integrity of the wellbore. So maybe in this hydraulic refracturing wells, we should also do that. We should have to improve the integrity a little bit better, than maybe what we do today. So those are ways I think you should be looking at it, as well as just continued sampling. We need to make sure this isn't causing an issue. So there's been a lot of work, and EPA, they're supposed to release a report pretty soon. I'm not sure if I believe there's one out in draft form that they actually went looking for leaks and those sort of things. And they found one case out in Pavilion, Wyoming, where they were hydraulically fracturing at a pretty low depth. They were, I believe, at 12 to 1,500 feet. They did find some contamination in water wells there in that case. So maybe there are some unique cases in shallow wells and reservoirs that we need to keep an eye on. We have to make sure we have this geologic seal that's basically,
keeping it all down,
keeping fresh water above and salt water below. So we don't have contamination. So I think that's is things that I would look at.